Have you ever been so impacted by something that it leaves no doubt as to what helped shape you? Welcome to the Blind Impact podcast, where we talk about and uncover those moments. Some funny, some sad, and some scary, but it's not always tragic. I hope you'll stay for a while. Hi, Erika.
Hi.
Hey.
I don't know.
Woo, we were having some difficulties. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Glad we finally were able to connect.
Yes, of course, of
Yes,
course.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, what do you want to tell about yourself? Anything, or
About
maybe some things you
myself.
might have done?
Just like about like me, like
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you if you want to tell, you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell about who you are, some things that you might have accomplished in life. It's totally up to you.
well, let's see. As far as accomplishing, not maybe not too much, but
Okay.
I worked in the dental field for about 10 years, and that's probably where
Mm,
I started like being able to travel at the age
okay.
of 19, traveling by myself and learning all these new things within the dental field. So that was a pretty big accomplishment for me since I was, pretty young.
Yeah, and I
Getting
was
to do all
about
that.
to I was about to stop you. I'm just like, how do you feel like that's not an accomplishment at that age?
Traveling by myself, at the age of 19, speaking at CE courses, speaking to like 500 to like 1,000 people sometimes. It was
Oh
just
my goodness.
at a young age.
That's young. And how
Yeah.
overwhelming. I mean, to be
Very,
that young and just yeah. Goodness.
very over.
Goodness. Okay. Erica, we're gonna get started here. And hey guys, this is the Blind Impact. Thank you guys for joining us. We're speaking with Erica today, as she's already mentioned. So Erica, what's your blind impact?
I
What story
think
do you want to talk about?
so. My blind impact would definitely have to be the tragic impact that of losing my firstborn child.
Okay. Okay. Well, uh, and do you care to maybe mention who you are, who your son is? Wow, how do I say? So do you care to mention the significant other that you have?
Better have my husband, my everything, Jesse. Um, he okay. I don't know. Do you want me to start off like how do you want me to
You
start?
can you can tell me, you can start with him if you want to talk about him. Tell us how you guys met if you want to. We can talk about
Oh,
the
he's gonna
the
love this.
whole thing.
He When he hears this, he is gonna laugh. Okay. So
Okay.
so me and Jesse actually, oh my gosh, it's crazy. We actually met on a dating app.
Okay.
Um so I told myself I would never get on a dating app just because I was like, oh my gosh, I would never. But my friends insisted, and so I tried out this dating app.
Okay.
It's called Chispa, so it's mainly for like Latin people.
Ooh.
Um, so it's funny because me and my friend would always like trade phones because they would have dating apps too.
Okay.
And so we would trade phones and start swiping on people.
Oh.
And so we would get like approval basically, like, oh, what do you think of him? What do you?
Okay.
And so my friend actually ended up swiping on him, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Um so anyways, that's how we met. Like I mentioned, within the dental field I was able to travel a lot, so I was always in the DFW area. I'm from East Texas. I don't know if you know where Tyler,
Ooh.
Texas is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm about 40 minutes from Tyler, about
Okay.
40 minutes from the Louisiana,
Border.
yes, Louisiana
Hmm.
border. So I would travel a lot to the Dallas area to take classes or to fly out of town and stuff. Um, And one day, as we started talking, and it was always like from the get-go, his vibe was just always like something that I really liked, and I was like, oh, I really want to meet him. So I took the chance, and one of the times that I was supposed to be in Dallas, one of my classes, oh no, I was supposed to come to Billy Bob's.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so some things didn't work out, and I was like, you know what, I'm already here. Like, let's go and meet this guy.
Right.
Oh gosh. So I took my chances. I did, and here we are, about 4 years later, and three kids
Oh my
later.
goodness.
Unfortunately, our first one passed, which it is tragic, but then again, it's always like I tell myself, I'm a firm believer of things happening for a reason.
I
Um,
agree.
Maybe it just wasn't the time for us to have a kid, or maybe we just weren't completely settled, into bringing a child into the world. For some reason, it just didn't work out. But here we are with two other kids now.
Two
A
beautiful
little
kids, I'm
wild,
sure.
my wild child. um, but yeah, so when I first found out that I was pregnant, um, obviously I was still living back home, and Jesse was living here in Fort Worth,
Hmm.
and so I was actually in Fort Worth one of the weekends that I was going up to visit him, and we I was like, well, my period's late, this isn't that. And so we took a pregnancy test one weekend when I was visiting him, and it came out positive. And
Yay.
we we literally had just been dating and talking for a few months.
Uh-huh.
So it was crazy to find out that we were pregnant, and we were both excited
It-
because, like I said, me and Jesse kind of just kicked it off like right away. Like everything was awesome. And so when we found out we were pregnant, yes, we were super excited, but then again, we're like, how are we going to tell our parents? Like, I don't even know your parents, you don't know mine. Like,
Mhm.
you know, so how is all that going to work out? But it worked out, and he met my family, and we told our parents. And I think one thing that he's never going to forget is the fact that when we told my parents, um, my parents are very old school,
Okay.
so they're gonna want to ask questions. They're both my grandmas and like my brothers and stuff. And so when we told them, it was a little box that had like a onesie in there. That's what they're. So he opened it. My dad opens the box, and my mom starts smiling right away. My mom's so cute. She was just smiling, and she's like, "What? No." And my dad
Oh.
was like, so confused. And then he looked at me, and I was like, oh my Jesus. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, okay, okay. And so he told us to go inside.
No.
I was like, oh no. He's like, let's talk inside for a minute. And I was like, oh, great.
Oh goodness.
I just told you that I'm pregnant, a little kid. Oh man. So we go inside, and of course, my dad just wants to know, like, are y'all ready? Like, how are y'all gonna do it? Like, are y'all gonna move in together? Like, are you moving? Is he moving over here? Just the typical questions that any dad
Right.
would want to know.
Sure.
And so all that's probably a whole different story. But at the end, it all worked out. He was happy. He hugged us, and he's like, I'm excited. That would have been the first grandchild on my side of the family.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, so everybody was super excited. My grandparents were super excited. But so then, skipping forward a couple weeks, I go into my routine checkup with my OB, and so she does an ultrasound, and she's like, okay, there's just a couple things here on the sonogram that I kind of want to take a look at, so I'm going to send you to a specialist.
Okay.
So as soon as she said specialist, I was like, okay, something's going on. Um, but she didn't say anything to me. I told Jesse about it, and I was like, we'll have to go see a specialist. He's like, everything's gonna be okay, it'll be fine. And of course, like always, he's super supportive. But me, on the other hand, I'm just the kind of person that's is always just I go to the specialist. Of course, Jesse can't make it to that appointment. He did make a few other appointments, but when I go to the specialist for that appointment, I go by myself, and it's early in the morning, and I'm supposed to go to work after this.
Ooh.
And so I see the doctor, and this doctor is by far probably one of the best prenatal doctors that I have been to. He is just very straightforward, and he'll tell you how it is. And so he did the sonogram, he looked at all the scans, he did all the measurements, and come to find out that my baby boy was actually diagnosed with it's in the lines between, I don't know if you know what skeletal dysplasia is. So
Mm.
it's, a bone deformality in babies, and so it's like where the sizing of their limbs is not really going with the size of their insides, the heart, the stomach, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he gives me two options. So option A, he said you can always terminate the pregnancy.
Mm.
Option B was you can, you know, stay pregnant. He's alive in your womb, he's moving, he's active. Um, but you'll probably have him early.
Okay.
And I grew up in a Catholic setting. Okay, so I grew up Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I was always a believer in God. I always pray. Always have faith in God, and I try not to think negative. So I'm like, of course, option A is not an option because I'm not going to terminate the baby. He's
Mm-hmm.
alive. I feel him in me. He's bouncing around inside of me. Like I'm not going to do that. So I decided to stay pregnant as long as I could, keep him in there alive as long as I could, and it was good. We had a big gender reveal. We found out it was a boy.
Okay.
Beautiful. I really thought it was gonna be a girl, but anyways, it was gonna be a little boy, and then so we were all excited, and so basically from that appointment from the specialist, the doctor was just telling me like, okay, so you're gonna have to come in every other week for scans so we can measure him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, that's fine. He did tell me that the baby would probably come anywhere from 30 to 40 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, I know in case it happens, like I already know.
Okay.
But so after that initial appointment with the specialist, I was, of course, devastated. I was by myself. Um, I called Jesse immediately when I got into the car and, kind of filled him in on what was going on. And it was, it was terrifying. We were pretty much heartbroken.
Uh,
And after that, I called my manager at the time, and I was like, look, I cannot come into work. And they already kind of knew what was going on, that I had to go to the
Okay.
specialist, and she didn't question me at all. She was like, that's fine, you know like, just go home, whatever you have to do, you don't have to come into work. So as the weeks pass, my belly's growing, he's still being super active. We are, going in every other week. He's doing good. And we had planned a baby shower because obviously I was going to celebrate my baby as much as I could. And
Sure.
we had planned a baby shower in December. And the theme of it was going to be Baby, It's Cold Outside, since it's, December. So we were already starting to plan stuff out. And um, my water. We took maternity pictures and everything right before. I think it was pretty sure it was like the weekend before my water broke. So one of my best friends is a photographer, and he took these beautiful, beautiful pictures of us. And I think the following weekend was when I was at home. It was late at night, and my water had actually broken at 30 weeks pregnant.
Ooh. Okay.
And oh man, I can
Yes.
still just remember. And we went to the bathroom, I'm waking my mom up like, mom, like just like water, there's water everywhere, like freaking out. And my mom's like, it's okay, calm down. It's your water that broke. It's okay. Let's just get your stuff and let's go to the hospital. And I'm freaking out. I'm calling Jesse because obviously Jesse still lives, in Fort Worth. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling him, and surprisingly, he answers. It was probably like 2 in the morning when I called him.
Oh, wow.
And I told him that my water had broke and he needed to get to Longview ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so here, dad, super dad, hospital and everything. And I think he showed up probably like 2 hours later. So nothing had
Okay.
really happened. And so we had already talked about like our birthing plan and what we wanted for our baby, because they didn't really know what the outcome would be
Okay.
within, you know, the diagnosis. So they weren't really sure if he would survive, if he would be alive for a few minutes, for a few hours, for a few days. Or they didn't know what was going to happen until he was actually born. So we had actually talked about not having him intubated, not having all these machines on him, not, just letting God kind of take over, or, letting just God be in control of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, and he was born alive. He was breathing, he was with us for about 17 beautiful minutes. We were
Okay.
able to hold him, we were able to carry him, we were able to. I had the priest from the Catholic church that I grew up in. He was there to baptize him before he passed.
Okay.
uh, so the room was crazy. There's people in and out, there's doctors, my family, the priest that's going in to baptize him. This was all during COVID too.
Goodness.
So uh I was lucky enough for my doctor to be like, you can have anybody in the room that you want. Like, I don't care, it's COVID, but you can have a room. And there was just so many people in it, and you could just feel all the love in the room. And I was terrified, but I could still feel, that everything was going to be okay. And, we had him, and we were able to spend, those couple minutes with him. And, but it completely changed my whole aspect of life after that. No mother ever
Mm-hmm.
wants to go through something like that.
Yeah. Goodness.
Walking.
Well, I'm sorry that that did happen to you guys, but like you say, you just let God be in control, and he's got it from
Yes.
start to finish. Yeah.
And he knew exactly, with us. And um no parents want to walk out of the hospital without a baby.
Mhm.
We walked out of the hospital with just a memory box. So it was it was just devastating. I'd questioned God so many times after
Mhm.
it. I was like, why us, why me, why my baby? I feel
Mhm.
like there's other people out there who don't deserve kids. And just me thinking like that, because it's like, why?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
thought you wanted my life to be beautiful, but here you are yet taking my baby.
Mhm.
Why? But like, I'm a believer of things happening for a reason, and I believe that God just, you know, we probably just weren't ready, or
Mhm.
something, you know. But it
Yeah.
made me see things. It made me see life a little bit different. It made me completely change. This was during the holiday, New Year's. It was hard. I remember going through the little drive-through lights where they have lights and stuff. And
Mhm.
um the car afterwards, and my parents and my brothers and Jesse all got down, and I had to stay in the car because I just couldn't. I was just like crying and bawling, and I was like, it just would everything would remind me of him. And so it was hard.
Yeah.
It was truly, truly hard for, still hard to think about it, obviously happened, but it it gets easier every day, if that makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does. You know, and I'm glad to hear that you do see, the light after something so terrible has taken place in your lives. And thank God that you've got Jesse there, as a major support, like you said. And that's just something that you guys are dealing with together, which is amazing, because there's some people, they can just shut down, right?
Right.
And they don't really want to deal with it, and particularly men, right? Because they don't, I think, really know exactly how. And I don't want
Right.
to lump everybody together, but I think sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for them to be able to like display those emotions, and they don't know like what the next steps are. And I think that you sound like you're somebody who's very, very on your own, very solid, right? And then you've got God in your life, but he could have taken it like maybe like you're too strong, and so like he's like how do I help console her, right?
Right.
But but it sounds like he did an awesome job in
He
that.
did it.
And
And
yeah.
the way that he was brought up and that he was raised, he he didn't really get a lot of like love
Mhm.
shown, growing up. And so he wasn't much of an affectionate person.
Mhm.
Me and my family, oh my gosh, we're so crazy. We love each other like crazy. We cannot live without each other.
Uh-huh.
And he'll tell you, even my parents, oh my gosh, my parents are so cute. They're so lovey-dovey. They've been together 30 years and they still
Oh,
act like they're 15 years old. It's so cute because that's
yeah.
something that I want, and Jesse has he's a different person now. I feel like from when we started dating, because I know he had a pretty, no, I don't want to say rough childhood, but he wasn't
Mhm.
shown the same love that I was, growing
Sure.
up. And he's just, he's amazing. He is truly somebody that I cannot live without. He's a great dad to begin with, and he's an amazing partner. So kudos to him.
Oh.
Definitely had some hard times, and
Sure.
he's definitely worked things out. And he's such a hard worker too, being able to maintain his family and then
Mhm.
some.
Yep. Yep. That's a huge, huge kudos. And
Yeah.
talking about accomplishments, right? So
Yeah. Oh, accomplishments.
yeah, definitely. I'm so glad to be able to hear your story. Now, is there what after having gone through that and experienced, just the raw emotion of, like you say, walking out of a hospital and not being able to leave with what you came with, your beautiful son. does it do you feel like there was a moment that you might have kind of felt yourself going down into like a really dark place after that? Because I guess maybe like postpartum, like, did you experience any of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It as soon as I got home, I wasn't the same for a little bit. I didn't want to
Yeah.
talk to anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to eat. I
Mm.
didn't want to pertain or partake in these festivities. Absolutely. I did feel like I went through all that, and it it's not a good feeling. you know,
Mhm.
having to go through postpartum without your baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely took a toll on me for a while. It did.
Man. I mean, stories like this are just, very, just so hard to, I think, just to be able to wrap your head around it. And I hope that aside from Jesse, you did have like the support. I don't know that you've heard of that particular disease before becoming pregnant, But it kind of seems like maybe there should be a little bit more knowledge out there, a little bit more. I think maybe we should be a little bit more educated on those type diseases, for women who do want to become pregnant in the future, or maybe they're going through that same thing too, and you're not having anybody to talk to about it. It's like, what do you do from there?
Right, right. I didn't know what that was, honestly. I did not
Hmm.
have a clue on what postpartum depression was until I had my son.
Yeah.
And you're right, not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know what it is, or what it actually is, or how do I explain this? Yeah, not a lot of people know.
Yeah.
So I do believe that it is, it's something that needs to be put out there more for people to know, because a lot of women do struggle with postpartum. A lot of people that I know, it's taken really big tolls on their lives, and it's gotten to the
Yes.
point where it's like, like, do I even want to be here anymore? Like, I can't take it anymore.
Hmm. Yep. And
And
it
I do believe that it's important for people to know that, you need you need a support system. You need somebody to talk to.
you do. You do. Because that's not, aside from not having the research, and then people look at you as though there's something wrong with you because you're experiencing that.
Right.
And that's completely, it's not the case. Like, it is something that you will go through, I believe, just naturally. And like you say, some people have it more severe than others. And I think that if, and perhaps you could be the catalyst for it, but if you can get out there and create some sort of support group for that. And I know that that you already have your other two children now, but it's like, spread the word, get out there and talk to people, right? Do like little, what do they have, like the little like AA meetings, but something like, well, support group.
Yes, a support
So
group. Yes.
yeah, get everybody around, gather, get them out of that bed, and get them out of those pajamas, and just everybody just gather around and talk about what others don't really want to talk about, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. I think maybe Jesse can kind of put that together.
Jesse has a lot of deadlines. Okay, he needs to get a lot of stuff together. I'll add this onto his list for sure.
Yeah, please do, please
No,
do.
no, but I do believe that it's important. Hopefully, I don't know if he mentioned to you that we're actually wanting to start our own little podcast.
He did talk to
Yeah,
me about that.
yeah. So struggling and all
Yep,
that.
absolutely. Because there's no reason why you can't. I think you guys have a good concept already about it. So like you say, he's got another deadline, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
gotta get that going. Would you mind giving, for anybody who may not know what your son did end up having, could you give a little bit of an explanation about what that is exactly, outside of his limbs,
So, his case, the doctor told me that his case was actually 1 in 100,000.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so he had seen two other cases of this before his whole career. So it lies within skeletal dysplasia, which is just a, deformality of bones and bone
Hmm.
growth. So he was actually measuring. So let's say that I was 14 weeks. He was actually measuring 11 weeks. So his limbs weren't
Oh,
growing. His little legs and feet, they weren't growing to, I guess, like his body.
okay.
So his body was bigger than his hands and his feet.
Hmm.
So he had a lot of fluid in his head as well.
Okay.
So when he was born, his little head was super swollen, and all that was just excess fluid that was inside his head.
Okay.
Um, so I really really didn't go into depth details of what kind of skeletal dysplasia it was.
Okay.
it was just basically, he told me that his little body, his little hands and feet weren't growing to the size of his actual whole body. And all that fluid from inside of his body was just going up to his head and his little brain.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that case was super rare. Like I said, he had only seen two other ones, and not even his patients. It was just people that he had heard of.
Okay.
Um, but basically, that's what it was. He just wasn't growing, and I know his little heart was not growing as well. So
Okay.
I cannot really exactly remember everything that he told me, but I just know that it was all about size. And he said that if for whatever reason he was to have survived, he probably wouldn't have been able to walk or move his hands or anything, and because they were going to be so short and so little compared to his
Okay.
actual body.
Wow. So is it so I guess I mean he didn't really have a lot of research as far as like with his particular I guess variation of that disease. There he didn't you don't know like what the survival rates would have been like.
Exactly. he
Okay.
he wasn't sure. He told me that he said the only way that would know if he was going to be okay is when he's born. So if he,
Yeah.
God willing, is fine, and he's born and he's growing and it's okay, or he I have him and he's alive and he's only with us for, like he said, a few minutes, a few hours, a few days. So
Hmm.
they didn't really know the outcome of it until he was actually
Right. Actually born. I wish there was more research done about it. And I know you said that it's something that's rare,
yes.
but I do wish that there was somehow. And do you think this is a good question? Do you think that there could be more more stats on this disease if people weren't opting to terminate? Because that's probably why, right?
Yeah, so of course, again, I didn't know about any of this. I hadn't even heard what skeletal dysplasia was. I didn't
Right.
know what that was. So now it's like I feel like ever since I had him, I I have seen and heard of a lot more of these kind of cases now. And
Mm,
I don't know if it's the exact same one that my baby had, but it lies within skeletal dysplasia, which is all the same thing as far as like bone deformality. So, yeah, I think that now that maybe, I'm not saying a lot of kids are born with it, but I think I've heard about it more now.
okay.
And so hopefully, the doctors or whoever, are working on something to, be able to help or do more
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah. As they should. You know, as they should. Is your doctor able to tell you like how this like comes about?
So I'm glad you asked me that, because we did, of course, after that happened and what he was telling me, it was like, okay, did I do something wrong? Was
Mm,
it because of me? And he was like, no, 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 it no. And it was really so rare. That case was so rare that's like, no, like we don't even know how it happened. I took so many tests. Me and Jesse took a lot of tests. uh what do they call those tests? Not obviously not DNA tests. Oh my gosh. They were like
genetic testing.
genetic testing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did so many genetic tests on
Mm-hmm.
the baby, on me, on us, and it was like, no, everything's good. Like, it doesn't run in the family. It wasn't anything with you, and it wasn't anything with Jesse. It, they didn't know
My goodness.
why he had it, or why it was happening. They didn't know.
Wow. Wow. That's Well, I don't have anything to say about that. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
because you like I said, I was like, well, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe something's wrong with me.
yeah.
You question and you're like, how do you not know?
Mhm.
But like I said, it was just one of those rare cases that's just like I have not seen anything like this, and I'm not sure why it's happening, but it's happening, and it happened.
My
Unfortunately,
goodness.
it happened to me. It happened to us. But
Mhm.
now I know I know it is. Um, I'm not sure exactly what causes it yet. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's what he
I'd be
said. He said,
curious.
"Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And I'd be curious to know if at this point now if your specialist has seen more of these cases now since he hadn't before yours,
right."
you know.
I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of my friends. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry if you heard that. I probably need to edit that out.
You're fine.
so I, so I have a lot of my friends from back home that actually see this, and I'm always thinking to myself, why are you and stuff. I'm always thinking to myself, I'm like, why are you there?
Oh.
Um, so it's I obviously I would love to know like what caused it, you know.
Mhm.
Um, because when we got pregnant again with our little rainbow baby, my wild child, it was scary. It was very
Oh yeah.
scary. I was so scared. I was panicking. I was like, well, is it going to happen again? And that's another thing, I had talked to my specialist and I was like, what are the possibilities of this happening again? And he said none. Th- There's no
Wow.
chance that this was, like I said, it wouldn't happen again. And so I'm like, but why? Like why did it
Mhm.
happen then? You know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So we did
Man.
the same whole thing with my daughter as well. I did the whole genetic testing. I didn't
Okay.
announce our pregnancy until we were like far along that we knew that she was fine. Uh,
Mhm.
did genetic testing. I did see a specialist, but just to my comfort because my doctor was like, fine, like she's healthy, like she's a perfect little girl, but because of what happened before, like,
Mhm.
specialist in here for you to
Okay.
double, triple check everything. But yeah, it's scary because it's like it happened. Is it going to happen again? No, it's
Yeah.
not going to happen again. But how do you know that
Yeah.
it's not going to happen
Yeah.
again?
How do they with so little research and they
Yeah.
can't tell you how it happened to your son?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But now you have two. Like you said already,
Yes,
you got
two
two.
beautiful, healthy babies. They
Oh
are
man.
our whole life for sure. They are.
Man, what a blessing. What a
Yes,
blessing. And I
yes.
know you have to get back to them. I doubt they're asleep at this point, but
Probably not. Dad's probably in there playing around with them and not letting them go to sleep for sure.
oh no. Oh my goodness. God. Goodness. Okay, so before we head out, is there anything else that you'd like the audience to know about anything else at this point? The baby specifically.
No, I mean, I think I have said everything, but just, back to the whole postpartum depression,
Mhm.
it is real. It's something that a lot of women go through. I went through it again with my daughter. So,
Mhm.
just make sure that you have somebody to talk to, somebody who can support you. It's rough. It's so hard having to go through that and then having a kid. You just feel like your whole world is just falling on you. And so my big thing is just to be able to have somebody who can be there for you and talk to them and
Yeah.
have somebody to listen to you, because it's important that you keep your mental peace,
Mhm.
because you do have a baby to take care of as well.
Yeah. And they
So
don't
it's
know that you're
super
going through
important.
anything.
Right, it's super important that you obviously take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of your babies.
Yes, ma'am. You put that. You couldn't have put that in any better words, Erica. Couldn't have said it more perfect.
Yes.
Erica, I do want to thank you for coming on. It's been a treat. It's been a real treat. I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and talk to the world at this point, because it's going out.
Yes.
So,
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. And
yeah.
it it gets a little easier to talk about it when I talk about it. So being able to share with other people who might be going through the same thing, or have experienced something like this before. It's always I'm happy that you have had me on here.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime, anytime. And I I've already thanked you, so I'm not gonna say that again. But I look forward to you and Jesse's podcast. This has been the Blind Impact, and guest has been Erica. If you guys want to email the show about your story, if you want to come on the show, please leave those details in the email as well. And again, thank you, Erica, tonight for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The Blind Impact. If you like the show, please rate, subscribe, review, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have a story you'd like to tell, please email me at theblindImpact@gmail.com. Or if you have a story you'd like to have read here by me, please include those details in the email or the voice message. Thank y'all, and remember, it's not always tragic.